Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Eating on a Budget with Rebecca Minshall. A lot of you have been asking us to produce more info on nutrition, including from those who attended our last event. So here we are. This is the first of a 4 webinar series. So stay tuned. We'll be emailing you those details along with the healthy eating resource guide, which Rebecca will talk more about. So Aurum Medicine and Wellness Clinic decided to bring on a registered dietitian because of the comprehensive training and regulations that they bring with them. Also because Rebecca is a great fit for our team. So in Ontario, the title just to give you a difference, an understanding of the difference of a nutritionist and an RD. In Ontario, the title nutritionist is unregulated and can be used by any individual without educational requirements. Registered dietitians, so RDs, are provincially regulated healthcare professionals who comply with professional standards to provide the highest quality of evidence-based nutrition care. So to become a licensed RD, one must complete an undergraduate degree in nutrition, as well as practical professional training, internship, and pass the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. And RDs complete annual learning requirements as well and are held accountable to the College of Dietitians of Ontario regulations. So Rebecca is joining us today from her home in Toronto. But before I pass on the mic, a little bit more about Rebecca. Rebecca is a holistically minded dietitian. She believes food is the cornerstone of well-being and is complementary to life, so it should not be overwhelming or restrictive. Using mindful eating approaches, Rebecca focuses on what works best for each individual she works with, recognizing that we are all unique. After obtaining her undergraduate degree in applied human nutrition at the University of Guelph, Rebecca completed 1,400 hours of clinical placements and obtained her master's degree in nutrition communication at Ryerson University. She has experience treating a wide range of health disorders and chronic illnesses, including diabetes type 1, 2, and gestational, obesity, weight loss, hypertension, hypercholesterolemia, eating disorders, and mental health. In addition, Rebecca has training in nutritional psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, and meditation. She's passionate about mental health and well-being, loves sharing her knowledge to help others feel healthier and happier. Beyond dietetics, Rebecca is also a singer, songwriter, and musician and avid reader. She loves connecting with others and is always open to new experience. Thank you for this offering today, Rebecca. Take it away.
Thank you, Tania. All right, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. So this is my first ever webinar. I will see how it goes with the technology, but basically if anybody has any questions throughout, we'll have some time at the end for question answer. And I believe you should see a chat function, so you can always type things out. And then at the end, I can go through them with Tania and answer everything. So I'm going to share my screen now. Please let me know. Hopefully this is working here. Okay. So slideshow. Okay. So today I'll be talking about eating on a budget. It's probably even more apparent right now because of COVID, and a lot of us have had changes in our income due to the pandemic. So that's why we decided to start this series on eating on a budget. I also have a fair bit of experience just through being a student. It tends to be part of the whole thing, which is not necessarily having as much to spend on food. So I have my own personal experience to share throughout this as well. And just a little disclaimer, so this webinar is intended for information purposes only. It doesn't take the place of individualized medical advice from a doctor, dietitian, or other medical care provider. There are no conflicts of interest in this webinar, nor third-party endorsements. So if I do mention any products or stores, that's just for example. I'm not getting paid. So. Okay, so today we'll be going over how much Canadians are spending on food, what is a balanced diet actually, and then some take-home tips for eating on a budget, including tips per food group, meal planning, smart shopping, COVID considerations, and my own lazy life hacks and recipes, and then some time for the questions and answers at the end. Okay, so on the right here, I got this pie chart from Loans Canada. They had an infographic on how much Canadians spent, and it was from Stats Canada for 2017. So the numbers I'll be going over likely have changed a fair bit because of COVID, but just something to give us an idea of how much we're spending on food. So the average household spends about $5,800 a year on groceries, so $490 a month, and it's about 13% of our budget. So a good chunk of what we're spending is going towards food. Now, mind you, if you can see on the pie chart, transportation was a big one. So again, with COVID, that might be one that's totally different right now, but either way, if anything, what I've heard is a lot of people are spending more on food than before. So hopefully this will help a little bit. And as well, on top of that, we were spending about $2,200 or about just under $200 a month on eating out at restaurants. This may or may not be changing right now. A lot of restaurants are doing the takeout options, so it still could be close to that. And just to show what some of the breakdowns of this spending are, so if we look, the meat is going to be a huge portion of the amount we're spending on groceries, dairy products as well, and then fruits and vegetables, about $1,400 a year, so a fair bit there. Okay. So hopefully today, whether or not you are eating on a budget or have enough to where you're not worrying too much about budgeting, hopefully we can all take away something that'll save us a couple dollars. So before we go into that though, I just wanted to go over what a balanced diet looks like. So last year, if anybody noticed, Canada's Food Guide went through a fair bit of a makeover. So it used to be the rainbow with the different food groups, and now it is a healthy plate model. So this gives us a bit more of a practical approach to healthy eating, because you can sort of see what your plate looks like in comparison. So the first thing to keep in mind is that calories, although that tends to be what people focus on the most, it's not necessarily the what we should be focusing on. So it's more about looking at the overall pattern of what you're eating rather than the calorie number, because it's what that calorie is made of. So what kind of food you're eating, that is more important. So we have 3 different groups on this plate. Fruits and vegetables, of course, protein in the top quarter, and then the bottom corner is whole grains and starches. So whole grains and starches, these are important because they give us quick energy. So they're made out of mostly carbohydrates, if anyone's familiar with that word. It's just a fast form of energy that our body can use immediately. So our brain actually can only take in energy from carbs. So that's why these are very important. They also give us fiber, which helps us to feel full longer, as well as keep our digestive system running smoothly, and can lower some of the not good blood cholesterol and blood sugars. So whole grains, those are in pretty much all of our whole grains. So things like oatmeal, barley, psyllium, whole wheat, rice, beans and legumes, as well as starchy vegetables. So potato, corn, squash are a bit higher in the starches. And our dairy and alternatives are have a bit of that carbohydrates. You'll notice they're also in the next category too for protein. So protein's important because it's not broken down as quickly as carbs. It actually keeps us full longer. So for satiety reasons, it's good to have protein. It's also used as building blocks for pretty much all of our cells in our bodies. So everything from tissue repair to making our hormones and our immune system, which is especially important during COVID right now too. So this can be found in animal sources as well as plant sources. So for animal, pretty much all of your meats will have protein, as well as fish, and beans and legumes are also, oh sorry, no, that's dairy and alternatives also give us some protein. And we have plant-based proteins, which are beans and legumes, nuts and seeds. And lastly, fruits and vegetables. So they give us lots of the micronutrients, so vitamins, minerals, antioxidants as well. If you've ever heard to eat the rainbow, that's not like the Skittles rainbow, but eating the rainbow in vegetables and fruits can be really useful because the colors of all of them actually give us different micronutrients and antioxidants. So if you eat a variety of colors of vegetables and fruits, you'll be getting a variety of those little, vitamins and minerals that are important for pretty much all of our body functioning. And they also have fiber, just like the whole grains. So sources, pretty much all of your fruits and vegetables, whether they're fresh, canned, frozen, cooked, they'll all give you some form of vitamin, minerals, and fiber. And lastly, we have our healthy fats, which aren't part of the plate, but they'll be used throughout our cooking in small amounts. So there's 3 different kinds of fats, if you've heard saturated, trans, and unsaturated fats. So saturated fats and trans fats are the not so good fats. So those are the ones that are found in a lot of our processed food, baked goods. Some animal meats have higher saturated fat as well. But it's the unsaturated fat that is liquid at room temperature. So things like oils in nuts and seeds. And this is the healthier fats that have health benefits, including helping keep us full, giving us fatty acids like omega-3, which is good for our organs and for our brain health. And then also helping to absorb some of the vitamins in our bodies. So there's 4 vitamins that actually need fat to be absorbed. So A, D, E, and K. And these are found in nuts and seeds, plant oils, and fatty fish like salmon or mackerel. So hopefully that wasn't too much information at once, but regardless, I will show you a few budget tips per each of these groups. And we will start with our grains and starches. So cooking from scratch can help to save money. So that's for everything from pasta, rice, barley, any kind of whole grain. So rather than buying things like the prepackaged, pre-cooked rices, cooking from scratch will save you money. And it's also likely to be lower in sodium and fats and some of the additives, and higher in fiber than the packaged ones. Buying on sale or day-old breads and freezing the leftovers can be a great tip. So if you ever see in the store, sometimes they'll have the 50% off sticker on them. I'll usually get them, and unless I'm going to use it that day, I'll throw it right into the freezer. And you can take it out, either let it thaw, put it directly in the toaster, or making things like grilled cheese or French toast. Anything that's cooking it in the process will defrost it when you make it anyways, so you don't have to worry too much about it being frozen. Making your own muffins and loaves, and then cutting loaves before you put them in the freezer can be a great way to save money, and then also having individual portions to just take out whenever you want to eat them. Buying in bulk for hot cereals, so like oatmeal, and then you can flavor it yourself. So I like to use cinnamon and cocoa powder and peanut butter in my oatmeal, and then you pop it in the microwave for 1.5 minutes and top it off with bananas or whatever fruit you might have. So that can be a lot cheaper than buying those little packages of oatmeal, which don't give you too much, and they also have lots of sugar and extra not so good stuff in them. And replacing meat in some meals with things like bulgur or oatmeal for salads, meatloaf, casseroles. You can also use oatmeal to buff up hamburgers as well. So it's just cheaper, and you can still get some of the nutrition and save a little bit, because meat, if you remember, was one of the most expensive grocery items. So. Okay, and protein. So pulses, which is just another word for things like beans and legumes, lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, black beans, all of those that you can get in the cans, and a lot of people don't know what to do with them, but they can be very, very diverse and very cheap. So adding them into pasta sauces, stir fries, or just straight into your rice, just to give it a bit more something different, can be a great idea on salads and soups or stews as well. Eggs, great source of protein, and very, very diverse in what you can do with them. So everything from hard-boiled egg salad sandwiches, omelets, quiches, frittatas, or even just as fried eggs. So lots of choices there. Peanut butter is the most budget-friendly nut butter. So on sandwiches, as well as just crackers or celery, if you ever did that as a kid. There's no reason that you can't have peanut butter and celery as an adult too. So quick snack as well. Cheaper cuts of meat. So this is things like beef chuck, bottom roast, round steaks, pork loin, rib chops, chicken backs or thighs, and removing the skin yourself. Or even if you're feeling up to it, you could try roasting a whole chicken. So a lot of the times these are cheaper because they aren't obviously as high quality, or they might not be as tender, but you can try to put them in a slow cooker and let them stew themselves. So that'll help to tenderize them, as well as save you a little bit of money than getting the really top quality meat. With anything like the chicken or turkey, you can make stew with the leftovers. So after Thanksgiving, my mom will always make a huge pot of turkey stew with the bones and just let it kind of simmer for a long time. And that lasts for a very, very long time as well. And it tastes good, but it doesn't go to waste at all. So could be something to try after the next big meal. And canned fish, so tuna, salmon, good for casseroles, sandwiches. Buying plain frozen fish and then seasoning it yourself with like lemon or salt and pepper can also be a good idea. Tofu, if you can get over the texture, it's a pretty diverse food as well. So it tends to just take on the flavor of whatever you put it with. More of the firmer tofus can be good for like cutting up as cubes, putting them into different dishes, stir fries. And then the silky smooth ones would be good for things like smoothies, just give you a bit of extra protein there too. And lastly, so the cheaper nuts and seeds, peanut, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, getting them unsalted will be a better choice. And they tend to be cheaper than things like cashews, almonds, or the more expensive nuts and seeds. And throw them on salads or eat them by themselves or in baked goods, but just a bit more protein and healthy fats there. Okay, and then we have our dairy and alternatives. So these can fit into both the protein and the starches. So that's why half the plate is there. Kind of just wherever you, whatever your meal is, you can sort of cheat a little bit and fit it into whatever category you think you need a little bit more for. So going big with these, so everything from milk, yogurt, cheeses, if you buy the biggest pack that you can store, you're likely to save more money. And freezing cow milk and hard cheeses is also something you can try. So I'd never heard of this until last summer. I was leading a cooking class at a community housing unit, and one of the men there had told me that you can freeze your milk. So I've been doing that ever since. Basically, I'll get the 4-liter bags with the 3 individual bags, and then put 2 in the freezer right away, and then leave 1 out. Whenever I'm running out of milk, I'll just pull out the frozen one, give it a day or so, and it'll defrost. And there might be a little bit of a residue at the top sometimes, but it's never anything to be concerned about, and it goes right back into the consistency of milk. So something, if you are not going through a ton of milk, but it can save you a fair bit, because buying the 2-liter ones ends up being about the same price as the 4. So, and skim milk powder. If you're feeling adventurous, you can mix it with water and drink it instead of milk. I personally might not recommend that, but it's possible. You can also put it in things like gravies, soups, just to give anything a bit more of a creamy texture there too. Okay. So last we have our fruits and vegetables for half the plate. So buying extra when it's on sale or in season can be a great way to save some money, especially if you have the freezer space. Similarly, buying frozen or canned. So for canned, you want to make sure it's with water. And if you, because fruit comes with juice a lot of the time, and that's just extra sugar. Sometimes the canned vegetables will have some kind of brine, which has a lot of salt. If you do get ones with the juice or the salt, you can always just rinse it under water, and it'll take away a lot of that extra. But the produce, so especially if you buy it when it's still fresh, you can chop off anything that's already going bad, and then wash it and chop it yourself and throw it in the freezer. And then if you want to use it later in anything where you're cooking, it's basically going to be the exact same as frozen or canned. And they also have the exact same, they're also both nutritious as well. So canned, frozen, and fresh are all going to give you lots of benefits. So the just past peak, that's like the 50% off. Things like bananas, there's so many ways to use them, whether you use them right away or you freeze them and defrost them for baking or in smoothies. So lots of options with those. One trick too is when you see things that are pre-bagged, so that's like apples, avocados, that come already in a bag, it can be useful to compare how much it costs when it's in a bag or just individual, because sometimes it's a better deal, but then other times you actually might be spending more buying the pre-bagged. And you also want to make sure that you can use it all before it goes bad, or else it's being wasted anyways. Okay, so if you're going to drink juice, it's usually better to have full fruits and vegetables, just because you get the fiber, which isn't in the juice. But if you're going to have the juice anyways, buying the frozen concentrate will be a cheaper alternative to boxed or bottled juice. It's best to stay away from anything that's called a fruit drink as well, because that's pretty much just like Kool-Aid or sugar and water. So nothing overly nutritious in there. And if you're feeling adventurous, you could always experiment with your own salad dressings. So any half a cup of some kind of plant oil with half a cup of vinegar or lemon juice, and then whatever herbs and spices. If you want, you can even just start with like tablespoon to a tablespoon and then just experiment a little bit. So especially if you're at home and have the time. So some ideas there. And starting a garden, if you have the resources, that can be a good way to be outside. My mom has one at her house, and a lot of the times it's just more of a jungle than a garden, but usually we'll get something at the end of the season. Or joining community gardens. Who knows with COVID whether or not that will be possible, but any of that can be cheaper, as well as farmer markets too. So this year is actually from Sobeys. I'll send everybody in the the thank you email, the link to this if anyone's interested. But essentially what they did was, so there's fruits here and vegetables here. They have all of the Ontario produce, and then just when things are in season. So right now in June, it's early summer. So we have apples, cherries, strawberries, rhubarb. And then going later into the summertime, early fall, you can see a lot of these other ones will be in season. And similarly with vegetables, so right now we have things like beans, broccoli, onions, mushrooms, And then within the next couple months, everything else will be coming into season and likely more save us a bit of money too there. Okay. So for meal planning, this can be a good way to save a couple dollars as well, because if you know what you're going to be planning, you're more likely to be purchasing ingredients that you're going to be using. So planning ahead, if you have a calendar and you can just brainstorm some of the meals you'll have, then especially right now with COVID, when you don't want to be spending too much time in the grocery store, that'll give you an idea straightforward of what you can make and what you need from when you're grocery shopping. When you're choosing recipes, choosing simple recipes will be the better way to go. So those are ones that don't have any one-time only ingredients or things that are a bit more unique. So it might be something like a fresh herb that only calls for a little tiny bit, but you have to buy a whole box of it. That's probably not the most budget friendly way to go. So using dry herbs or substituting something completely different, especially right now with COVID and everyone's sort of aware of what's in their cupboards. It can be a good time to get experimental with your food, and you never know what you might make. So cooking from scratch as well, and in big batches that you can freeze, will also save you some time and money, and any meals that can be used as leftovers as well. So an idea here could be making a lot of ground meat and then using some in like a pasta sauce and then saving the rest, either freeze it or just save it for later in the week for something else like lasagna that could use it as well. And slow cooker recipes tend to also be really great for the easy and big batches too. Using a shopping list when you're going shopping, like I said before, just to make sure you know what you're bringing or what you need and what you already have at home. And that leads us into the smart shopping. So shopping on a full stomach, as I'm sure many people have experienced, if you are surrounded by food in a grocery store and you're hungry, you are much more likely to make the maybe not so wise purchases and the impulse buys. So just making sure you've eaten something before you go shopping can help to avoid that. Bringing your own bins. So right now with COVID, obviously depends on the store. When I talk more about COVID, I can go over some of those things. But if you're allowed to bring your own bins, you can save the 5 cents on plastic bags as well. And shopping at the discount grocery stores. So things like No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart, Giant Tiger, and on the value brands. So No Name, I believe, is Loblaws. Great Value is, I want to say, Walmart's. So those ones, a lot of the time, they don't have as pretty packages, but the food itself is comparable to those that are more expensive, and it's just more the marketing that really changes the price. So when you are shopping for deals, it's good to check out the flyers. So whether that's in the newspaper, online, and just kind of, shopping around that and stocking up on staples. So those are items that you use regularly. If they're on sale and you can get more, you have the storage room and the way to get it home. That can be a great way. As well as stocking up on anything that is shelf stable, so isn't going to go bad in the next while, so that you make sure you can use it before then. So you can also try asking the staff when the produce goes on sale, or like the day old breads. And from my experience, though, a lot of the times it tends to be a bit random, but depends on the shop, depends on the staff themselves. Sometimes it can be more towards the end of the day, especially some of the bread products, things like that have been sitting out all day. So that could be something that you can question about. As well, you can find out if they have any mail, email coupons or loyalty programs. So some of those will give you different points or money back on when you spend money at the store on certain products. So definitely something to consider. And like we were talking about before, shopping in season can also be cheaper. And this is kind of interesting, but if you shop for products at the bottom and the tops of shelves, you're more likely to find deals. And that's again, just to do with the marketing. So anything at eye level tends to have, be more expensive. And that's just a lot of the psychology behind marketing, and just what people see immediately will grab their attention. So yeah, if you can reach the top shelf, or, you know, crouch down to the bottom, you never know, you might find something good deals. And just to remember, it's only a deal if it isn't wasted. So if you're going to buy bulk or buy a bunch of, I don't know, peaches, and they all go bad, you're not saving money. So just make sure you're buying what you know you can and will use, or else it's just throwing your money out and wasting food as well. So, and just two little things to avoid. So bottled pop and water will be obviously more expensive. If your tap water is drinkable, just you can try adding some lemon or berries or lime ice to it if you don't like the flavor of it, but that will definitely be more environmentally friendly, as well as save you some money there too. And pre-made foods, again, just buying things from scratch. So pre-made foods could be anything from like the frozen dinners, or like the salad bars or salad kits. Anything like that will be more expensive than just buying the product as itself and making it yourself. Okay, so here are a few phone apps that you can try. So PC Optimum, the one at the top left corner, they basically, you can load your offers every week, and then if you buy those products, you get points back. Usually they range from like 100 points to like a couple hundred, but then once you get 10,000, it'll be $10. So it can add up, and if you're going to buy these things anyways, you might as well sign up for their offer program. Flip will send you flyers straight to your phone. You can search them if you're doing price matching. With COVID, some grocery stores aren't offering that just because it's not considered essential, and it's just, it takes more time, but something to consider. So with the app, you can just type in milk and see what flyers come up with it, and then you can tag them and save them, I believe, and then show it to the grocery store clerk. Cattle and Checkout 51. So both of these have their own sort of ways that you can earn money. So I believe it is Checkout 51 where you buy products, and then they can, if you scan your receipt, they will give you like 25 cents or a couple bucks back. And then once you get $20, they'll send you your check in the mail. And then Cattle, I think it works, you upload your receipts, or you watch advertisements, or do little tasks like following something on Twitter, and they'll give you points or money back. And then once you get to a certain amount, again, you can redeem it. So just a couple things you could try out. And this is one of the last things I want to go over. So unit pricing. If I could see you all, I would ask you if you've ever heard about it, but unfortunately, webinar doesn't really allow that. So unit pricing is basically a way to avoid doing math. So here are two pictures of hummus that I took at a Walmart a few years ago, actually. And if you'll see down there, they both have this thing called unit price. So a lot of the time this will be on the label with the price. And so the first one, what it's doing is basically showing you how much a product costs per set unit. So a lot of them are 100 grams. So basically it does the math where it divides how much it costs by how much is in it, and then multiplies it by the grams, and you come up with this number to show how much something costs per 100 grams. So if we do this for both of those, although they're the same price, you're actually saving money if you go for the second one, because it's $1.23 versus $1.53 per 100 grams. So don't have to necessarily understand any of that math stuff, but if you can find the unit price, it can be a really easy way to compare two products that are similar, and then you can avoid math. Okay, COVID considerations, just a few things to keep in mind. Over the past couple months, I was helping out at a Loblaws. So these are a few things that are really useful, but also just, you know, for health and safety reasons as well, obviously. It's important that everybody can cooperate. So being patient, usually there's a lot more lines. You might have to wait outside, as I'm sure some of you have experienced, but just being patient and knowing that everybody is trying their best, we're all in this together. Hand hygiene as much as you can throughout. Much better than wearing gloves as well, because gloves can further the cross-contamination. Following the store's policies, and then paying with a card instead of cash, just again, avoiding as much touching as possible. A lot of the grocery stores have increased their the amount that you can tap on as well, so that you don't have to press the buttons there too. And depending on the store, you may or may not be allowed to bring in your own bags or bins. If you happen to be, just making sure that they are clean, and clean everything once you get home, wipe it down, and make sure you wash your hands as well. Yes, right there. And you could also consider ordering online. So there are a few options for this. There's around Toronto and I think some other cities, just depending on where you are. You can try Instacart, which is you basically put your order in online and then somebody will do the shopping for you. They send you up to date little messages in case something is sold out or they have to switch something, and then they deliver it right to your door. So I actually did this week because I hurt my hip, so I wasn't able to walk to the grocery store, but the amount that it costs extra is a little bit more than what it would have cost me to transit to the grocery store. So something to keep in mind, and it's also less exposure outside as well. And online grocery orders for pickups. I know a couple grocery stores are doing that as well. And lastly, supporting local when possible. So it's the small businesses, the local, you know, corner stores, markets that are the ones that are getting hit hardest. So if you can, it may not be the most budget friendly. Sometimes little markets will be very comparable though. And your dollar is going very far if you are helping the small businesses. So. Okay, so this last little bit, these are, I called it lazy life hacks and recipes. So basically these are things that I have done myself. People that I guess know me personally, I am quite frugal, and I also have been cooking for myself for a while, and it can get a little bit boring. And these are just some of the recipes that I've either created or just whatever. So we'll go through a couple, but different ideas, keep an open mind. So quick wraps. All of these were made in like a matter of minutes. So the top left one, it was kind of like a grilled cheese. I think I microwaved it. So you can throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It is ready. And then just some veggies and dip on the side, or hummus if you have it. The middle one is chickpeas with, what I like to do is get the bottles of stir fry sauce, if you've ever seen them. So I can make one of those last weeks because you just use a very tiny bit. So for the middle one, I took a can of chickpeas, rinsed them off, threw them in a container and a little bit of that sauce and just shake it up so that they have some flavor. The wraps had some, I think it was hummus on the sides, and then just some greens, and then nice, easy wraps there. And then I don't know if you can see it or if the video's in the way, but the other one's just peanut butter and banana on a wrap. I didn't even chop the banana, so it's like, can be really easy. Next, sweet potatoes. So easy way to make sweet potatoes with the microwave. If you want, you can just wipe them off, wash them off, cut off any of the funky looking bits and poke holes in them, put them in the microwave for 5 minutes or so, and they'll soften up. So the one on the left, it was a coleslaw with some mayo and a bit of, coleslaw, tuna, and mayo, and then just on the potato and in the lettuce. On the right side, very similar to the chickpeas from the last one. It's just with sweet potatoes as well. And I actually just used a bigger container and put greens in it and just shook it all up just to cover everything. And so that's a really easy salad there. These are, so on the right is a stir fry. Again, just you can, in a pan with some oil, saute an onion, add some frozen veggies, a can of legumes, some sauce on there. You can make it yourself. Google stir fry sauce. You can find a lot of really easy recipes. And then just on some rice there, or quinoa. On the left, I'm sorry that is such an unattractive picture, but the pot that I was making chickpeas in is not pretty to begin with. So that's just showing if you're gonna make legumes from the dry version, it's really, really easy. You just fill it with some water that is clean water. It just doesn't look that way. And let it soak overnight. And then you rinse it off, add new water, a couple thumbs worth, put it on a boil, and then let it simmer for an hour or so. And then you have the cooked legumes, and that can be even cheaper than buying them canned. And a couple breakfasts. So on the right, this is an example of oatmeal. So it's just like cocoa powder, peanut butter, bananas in there. And then on the left is a very easy omelet with some mixed greens in there on a bun and some salad. So some really easy recipes right there. And the references there as well. So everybody who tuned into this webinar is going to get a free resource. So this is just pretty much everything that was covered today is on there. And you will get that with the thank you email. And as well, so anybody who tuned in can get a free 30-minute follow-up appointment with me. So that is if for existing patients using the code word unit priced hummus. And if you're not a patient right now, I have free 15-minute consults, so phone consults, just to make sure it's a good fit. Or else if you book your initial appointment, you can use that 30 minutes at any point in time. I am offering online telehealth and appointments, so basically anybody in Ontario can see me. And I think in the next couple weeks we'll be able to do some in-person visits. So I got the okay from the college yesterday, and it's just more making sure that it's safe and all the ethical considerations there too. Okay, and lastly, I have 3 more webinars in the next few months. So next month, I'm actually really excited about. So it's on June 25th at 12, and it's about the truth about dieting. So this is kind of basically like screw diets for weight loss. They don't work the way that we think they do. So I'll be going through a lot of the research with that, the evidence, and then giving kind of different alternatives to long-term change. So things like intuitive eating and learning to listen to your body, because our bodies are actually a lot smarter than our brains. So that'll be next month. And then the 30th of July will be Eating for the Earth, which is some tips on just how our food impacts our environment, and then what we can do to try to reduce our own carbon footprints and everything like that. And then in September, food and mood, so designing your diet for mental health. This is one of my biggest passions. So I'll be going over some of the research for the brain-gut axis and just how our food can impact how we're feeling. And then again, just kind of some ways that we can kind of tweak our diet to complement our mental health. So you can follow Aurum on Eventbrite, or the links I believe will be part of the follow-up email there too. So thank you all very, 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 very much for tuning in. I will hand it over to Tania so we can do, if anybody has any questions now.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was amazing. I really liked how you talked about the options for vegetables, like the freezing, the cans. A lot of people, I think, steer away from that, but that'll be helpful for my patients in terms, because I'm always telling them to eat more vegetables, and then this hack will be helpful for them.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for anyone who has a question, they can raise their hand. It's where do they do that? Reactions?
I don't know. No. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Or they can type it. You can just unmute yourself, or just say that you have a question in the chat, and Rebecca will be here to answer them. Mm-hmm. And she'll unmute you so that we can hear you ask your question.
Yes. And yeah, no. But regardless, thank you guys all very, very, very much for watching this. And yeah, one of the things I was nervous about was the technology. So I think hopefully everything went smoothly. So.
Shall we wait a minute and see if anyone has questions?
If not, that's totally cool.
I think someone...
Oh, Eugene? Nope.
You were very clear, but I'm really glad that you guys took this initiative, and I'm looking forward to those following webinars. And if I do have any questions that come up when I'm trying the things that you suggested, please know that I'm going to try to contact you guys. But I'm really appreciative for the information that you shared today.
Thank you, Eugene. All right. Well, if nobody has any, thank you, Kelsey. We can call it a day. Oh, I think Patty. Sorry. What's that, Patty? Sorry.
Bring the paper back.
Oh, unmute.
Can't unmute. Okay.
1 second. Hi, Patty. Sorry about that. Oh, you're still muted. Or no, is your microphone on? Yeah?
Patty's writing the question out for us. I love it.
This is how you really do it. Oh, Wi-Fi. It's our Wi-Fi.
It's our Wi-Fi. Okay.
That's okay.
Maybe after the call.
Yes.
Feel
free to message me, Patty, if you have any questions. But yeah. Otherwise, if nobody has any, then thank you guys very much for coming again. And you'll be receiving the links for the next one, as well as a survey just to, I think, quickly fill out about today. And if you have any topics that maybe future ones you'd be interested in learning about. So otherwise, thank you, and hope you guys all have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the talk and for the free gift offering and for the handout.
All right. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.